All right, we are live. We've got me, Cass Morrow, and we've got James Tippins, Catherine, my business partner. Today, guys, we want to talk about resentment. Now, if you haven't caught the last couple weeks of lives, we have been talking about patience. We've been talking about impatience, and where a lot of this stems from is your resentment. Now, if you don't understand this, I want you to learn something today, right now, that contempt is the leading cause of divorce. Now, even if you're not married, it's pretty powerful. This is exactly what happens in any relationship that doesn't work out, guys. And forget just your, loving relationship. This is a problem for parents with their kids, kids with their parents. This is a problem with business deals. This is a problem everywhere in life. And what we have to understand is resentment is ruling you, okay? And it's causing you to make a lot of decisions. And what we have learned with over 5,000 people being through moral marriage is that we've learned that if you are resentful in any way, contemptuous, if you're making decisions based off a pain and suffering standpoint, then we already know you haven't done any authentic growth. Mm-hmm. We know that because if you are somebody growing and you actually love your partner, okay, male or female, it does not matter, then what makes it okay for you to be growing and not allowing them to grow? And we've got lots to unpack here today, but let's introduce James Tippins. How are we doing today, brother?
Doing great. Best day of my life.
Best day of your life. Awesome.
Always. Resentment. I mean, it's one of those silent killers. It's like the heart attack stuff, You think about the silent killer. We don't notice it. Mm-hmm. We don't notice it until it's too late. But
yes.
One of the things about you said yesterday, and when we were talking about this, is that one of the
hold on a second, real quick. I gotta address this. Am I the dude that refuses to help people under 150K? Yes and no. That ad specifically is for a different program that costs more money, guys. But if you know anything about me, we have programs that are all the way down to $30 because I care that much. What I want to do is address that resentment that we're talking about today, right now, James.
There it is.
People right there. Now, I'm not saying it's you, Abu Binks, okay, but there are comments on those ads where you're so deep in a resentment because you don't make 150K, you think that I'm greedy, when it's like buying a Ford Focus, a Ford Mustang, or a fucking Ferrari. You haven't even noticed that you can buy one of my courses in a $30 book because you're deep in resentment. How are you moving yourself forward? And again, I'm not sure that that's you, Abu, okay, but there were some fucking hateful men on. And while we do that, before I know I stole a show from you, James, but a lot of women are taking it pretty personal as well when I'm saying, hey, women, for example, one of the reels that just went out yesterday was women have no excuse to be financially abused. You can get off Netflix and learn to make money. I know this because my wife works 2 hours in the morning before the kids get up in the morning, and she makes multi-six figures. Okay. So everybody has an opportunity. So resentment is what's blocking you. And that's one of the reasons why I want to talk today. So thanks for bringing that up, Abu. Go ahead, James. Sorry to interrupt you.
Perfect. No, it's perfect. It's a good example. And I mean, what we do, one of the things that people just can't, I mean, if you're not helping them exactly the way they want to be helped at the exact time they want it, it's like, I mean, how many hundreds of men do we talk to a month that we help and we coach for zero just because they don't have it? And we can't keep doing that. So we're making more programs to help, and then we have other programs for different things. But anyway, we don't have to justify ourselves on that. That's
no,
just
we sure don't. No.
Yeah, a good example for resentment. But what I was saying about resentment being sort of a silent thing is sometimes we don't know that it's happening. And you make a point that I think the Gottmans agree with, and almost every marriage therapist say that, it's contempt is the number one killer of a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would say that the precursor to that is resentment. And we know that resentment comes from unmet expectations. One of the mentors in our program that teach men about reality check, get with the truth and face what's really true rather than this cycle of stories that he coaches on Saturdays. He says that, expectation is premeditated resentment.
Correct.
Which is the building blocks for contempt, which is the fuel for divorce and destruction, the tailspin into the crash of a relationship.
Correct. See, I think what happens is, and why it's premeditated resentment with expectations, is because what happens is you have this expectation. Say you're doing some growth. Say you're in a program like our Sure the Expensive one, or Sure maybe the $30 book, or anything in between. Okay. Right. You start to grow. You start to do better. You start to show up for your partner. Okay. And what happens is you have expectations on your partner. How do we know that you're not actually changing for you? Is because you have those expectations.
That's right.
Right. That's why you become resentful. And the reason where it gets dangerous is because your expectations actually flip to entitlement, what you think you deserve. And that's what I would say. I built on what Pete said. And I said that's what breeds contempt. And
Right.
in no position of resentment or contempt could you actually move yourself forward. Let me really hit this home for you guys. How many times have you ever been defensive? Okay. I want you to know how hypocritical that is, right? Forget the fact that they're defensive too and all that shit.
Mhm.
Think about it like this. Ask yourself this question. Do you know who you are? Because everybody that we know that needs help in a relationship loves one time, shuts
Right.
down when they feel like retreating or hiding, right? Because they don't like rejection or it didn't go their way because of those expectations. And then we know that they attack, defend themselves, and attack and blame. Okay,
Right.
attack, defend cycle.
That's
Okay.
right.
And then we know we go back to loving because we want to move this marriage forward. Right. And
Right.
so, or relationship forward. So we understand that you can't actually answer the question, who am I? Because you're three people. Anybody on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, YouTube, anybody want to tell the truth and say, I don't know who I am? I'm three people. I
Mm.
used to be seven fucking people. That's what Catherine and I joke about now.
Yeah.
Okay. We thought I had a personality disorder. All right. And so psychiatrists and all that shit. If you don't know who you are and you're not always showing up as who you want to be, then how can you ever defend yourself or expect your partner to love you? In which
Right.
case, there's the expectations we're talking about,
Right.
which what we said was premeditated resentment.
Yeah. It just
Right?
comes.
It does.
Yeah, it just comes, and it's something too that resentment, it comes in different forms. It comes for different reasons. But one of the things that we like to emphasize to help people see is it's not just like something that happens overnight. You just don't explode into resentment. It builds with the small, repeated disappointments, the unspoken frustrations, the suppressed emotions, the not.
Mhm.
That's what you're talking about, Cass. You're not being authentic because you're not saying what you need. You're not saying how you feel. So you're pretending to be compliant so you don't mess things up. But in turn,
Mhm.
you're turning back around and you're creating the very recipe for an explosive pile of garbage coming down the road. And then you're going to, and I've been caught this way. And I've been the person doing this where you're like, it's like the rug pull out. Hey, where's this stuff coming from?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it's reaction. So then I'm going to change the way I act to try to keep the resentment that you have. And it's just this vicious cycle. I think I said it yesterday. There's a feedback loop of justification. We just want
Mhm.
to continually justify ourselves over and over again. And that resentment thrives because we replay the narrative of being wrong and we reinforce why we're right to feel bitter.
That's right. Guys, I want to hit something home really hard. It's a new message that I'm really trying to put out there right now because people, as you know, are very focused on things like attachment theories. They're focused on narcissism. They're focused on codependency. We're seeing this all the time. Now, I want you guys to just break away from all that for a second. And let's look at codependency for a second.
Mm.
Something that I've identified with people in their pain, i.e., resentful, feeling like a victim, not challenging themselves to move their life forward, but blaming their partner or
Mhm.
blaming their customers if they're not making money, or the hell, their kids because they don't have time to make money. Okay. What we have to understand is you're actually codependent on yourself. Forget codependency on your partner. You enable yourself because I'm going to use the money one, James, because it's super easy. Okay.
Right.
But and I'll use working out because it's also super easy. You are either getting up early enough in the morning to make money when your kids are asleep or going to the gym to get healthy. Or something that I do is I change my calendar to make sure that I'm up and working before my phone starts buzzing all day. Okay. I also don't have notifications on my DMs. I manually go look at them when it's time. Right.
Yeah.
Why do I do all this? Because I'm not codependent on my pain and saying, fuck, I can't get to 1,000 DMs this week. I literally did 1,000 DMs, 10:30 in the morning the other day to 4:30 p.m.
Oh, wow.
3 days ago. Maybe
Yeah.
that was Monday. Like, that's insane. Right. But you guys say, oh, tough problem to have. Yeah, but how did I get there? I got up early and I fucking did what I had to do. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to teach you guys to understand if you're dependent on creating situations that you do resent, then
Mhm.
you can't expect the partner to change. Don't look at what they're doing wrong right now. Why are you dumping yourself into a low? Why are you choosing things that pull you from your goals? Glenda says, I don't know who I am for sure. Glenda, for starters, that's important because if you don't, how can your partner love you?
Right.
How can you be resentful? How can you defend yourself?
Yeah.
We have to do the work. So if you don't know, guys, we have an app. Go.moralmarriage.com is the web browser. Okay. Go.moralmarriage.com. Download our app. Join the free men's community or free women's community, depending who you are. and then join us. Start to learn who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, you can't change your life.
You can't.
No.
And you actually breed self-betrayal when you don't know your identity. And if you think there's anything, if there's anything that's going to give you resentment, is to betray who you really are. And you're going to feel that one day. It's like the martyr syndrome or whatever. People do things because they want something or they want to be seen in a certain way. So resentment lingers when we don't speak up, when we don't enforce boundaries, when we tolerate behaviors that contradicts our needs, our values, etc., because we're not real. We're lying. We're literally walking around, the Greek word for liar is hypocrite, or actor. And it really, a liar and an actor or hypocrite, they're all the same thing.
Do you know what? That reminds me, James, about imposter syndrome. Dennis brought it up today on one of our support calls. And, I did a podcast with Catherine recently on this, and I kind of blew her mind. She was like, I never thought about it like this. I was like, you know what, imposter syndrome? She goes, yep, I don't have it. And I thought that was funny. And I broke it down. See, most people are actually imposters. They don't have imposter syndrome. Okay. You are resentful because you don't like the life that you want, because you're saying, this is what I deserve. This is the entitlement that breeds resentment. Okay. This is, I use men, for example. I'm a great dad. And we already know that you have to be a great dad with or without your wife. So why do you have expectations your wife should love you? Because you're a great dad. Right. With or without her, or you're going to have to do that. Right. And if we understand that, then, when you start worrying, am I imposter syndrome? Usually great dad's not something for that, but it could be. But, I referenced a guy on the podcast who was very upset about his weight, and he has this great manly, vision, because he's got this great man podcast for men.
Oh yeah.
But you remember this guy, and he's but I'm really overweight and I know I should be. I suffer with imposter syndrome. Dude, you're not suffering from imposter syndrome. You are an imposter. Right. You know that that's part of being a man. You preach the message, yet you don't do it. That's actually an imposter. Yeah. See, and Jody says, exactly, I suffer from this. Jody, I challenge you to figure out what it is that you're actually thinking you are. Or go listen to our podcast. It's called Moral Marriage. It's on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. But challenge yourself, because you're probably resentful because you are actually an imposter. Let's use simple respect, for example. Yeah. You deserve respect. How often are you respectful? If you've actually been disrespectful, you are an imposter.
Right.
That's it. You're not actually practicing what you say you want.
That's right. Yeah. Imposter syndrome, just for clarification, is not that you're not. It's that you are, but you think you're not. Imposter syndrome would be like us not wanting to get online, like when I first met you, not wanting to get online with my message because I felt like, nobody really wants to hear it from me. Who am I to tell the story that I went through? Well, it's my story. And if it can help people, I'm an expert in that, and this idea of resentment, this self-betrayal, resentment is really a hidden need. If you get to the bottom of it, you say, what do I really need? It's a sign of something that you need. What do you need? Respect, appreciation, emotional connection. The thing is, it might be something that you need, but it's not something you're entitled to, especially when you're not doing the work. In the context of what we're talking about today is with men and women, but specifically men that we coach, who get into a program 6 weeks in, they're like, oh, things were better, and now I need more. And then they go in and they demand more, and they're showing up like they've got a dag-blasted PhD in something, and they've only read the introduction of the coloring book.
Yeah. I love the analogy. It's so true. What James is referencing, guys, is we were talking on 2 separate calls this week, one with men and women and one with men. And we were talking about how what we're noticing with it, where there's 2 types of people that get resentful. Okay. One, you have a partner who's growing with you. Okay. And you have expectations that they should be moving along faster. And therefore your win is celebrated in the fact that they make it easy on you. You just don't realize it. You're like, oh, the win is because, we're getting along so much better this week. Right. Okay. Then we have somebody else where it's just a woman in the program or just a man in the program. Okay. And they're frustrated and resentful because their partner's not accepting their changes. In either case, you're looking to your partner to find out if you're doing well. The struggle should always be in the tool that you're using, because you're reflecting inward and going, oh, I could have responded. I'm not proud. Here's the example we used. We had a woman talking to Catherine on a private one-on-one call. I overheard it. And I asked her about it after. And she said, to the woman, she said, I know that he said, if you don't treat me better, as long as you're treating me like this, I won't want to move forward in the marriage.
Mm.
Okay, so yes, my man should not have said that to his wife.
Right.
That's not what we teach. You know, you're not saying things that hurt your partner or make your partner fearful. Okay. But what did Catherine recognize? She said to the woman, hey, is that fair? Do you like the way that you've been? Would you be with you if you were being treated that way? And she said, no. She goes, so and isn't it valid what he said? She said, yes. So validate it, understand it, and then go change your fucking behavior. So she did. Right now, he still needs to be told not to talk like that. So I did in the morning. But the point is, guys, there's no place for resentment on each side. He shouldn't have been resentful and say the hurtful thing because he's supposed to be supporting her in the woman she's to become.
That's right.
And she shouldn't be resentful if she can look inward and go, holy shit, I shouldn't say this. And this happens every day in relationships.
Yeah. What do you think about this, Cass? We haven't even talked about this, but it just sort of popped into my head. Just reviewing all the resentment that we've coached in the last month. I think it's like almost a power trip for some people. They don't realize it. It's like if I hold this resentment, I have control. I've got control. So, for example, not only does it filter everything and it filters the wrong narrative and it creates this constant loop, this justification loop that we talked about, but it creates a sense of control. Like if I stay mad, they'll see how much I'm hurt. It'll teach them. It's sort of like a scorekeeping with a little bit of vengeance in the background. But in reality, it only keeps us stuck and it sucks our energy out. It really destroys us emotionally and mentally.
It does. First and foremost, I'm going to comment on it this way. Resentment, guys, is what's holding you back from reaching your goals. It just prevents you from ever having the life that you want, which brings me to my second point. What do I think? Let's say you're using the last 30 days. Well, I'm going to use the last 3 years as an example. What we've learned is quite simple. Almost everybody wants the same fucking thing with their family, with their wife, with their husband. You want the same damn thing. So why in the world are you doing anything that's pushing you away from that, from getting the life that you want, right? When we get resentful, that's what causes you to defend yourself. And go back to what we said earlier, guys. You don't know who you are. You don't even know who you're defending. So right now, you should just literally go to your partner today and apologize for every time you've been defensive. If you can't answer the question, who am I? Who am I? I'm serious. Right. If you can't identify who you are beyond a job, beyond being a parent, and beyond being a spouse, that's not who you are. It's like, where are we here? Glenda, if you're still watching, you said being a fawner, a trauma response, in parentheses, ruined my marriage of 25 years. That's a great reflection. But Glenda, my God, girl, you are not a fawner. You have learned to fawn.
Right.
That is the problem. When we start identifying who we are, we start to realize we can peel back these layers and present yourself as the person who, Glenda, after 25 years, there's something to save there, in my opinion.
Yes.
Or at least be damn sure I try.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The fawning is covering you up. The fawning is covering up the true identity in you. The fawning is a mechanism that helps you feel safe, but it breaks you down. So you may not even feel resentment. You may feel defeat. You may feel worthlessness and have no worthiness in your own value as a human being. So peel that stuff back, look at it, witness it, and ask yourself, why do I fawn? And then why? And you keep asking why until you get to the bottom of what's really there is that need. And then ask yourself what it's going to take for you to find that, and what it's going to take for you to find that, not in someone else.
I'm gonna use my life as an example, guys, because many of you guys also suffer with insecurity or anxiety. Okay. I was so anxious, and I would say I'm insecure. Okay. Now, I was resentful towards Catherine, which caused me to be quite abusive to her. Why? Because I was more concerned with her not making me feel secure, because I didn't know who I was. So I had to peel back the layer of insecurity, meaning I am not insecure, right? Why? Because I didn't like feeling that way. I didn't like reacting in a way that was resentful and abusive towards Catherine, because I didn't like feeling like I was scared. That's what insecurity really is, guys. Fear, right? So I had to understand that I'm not afraid. I'm acting in a way that's insecure. And at first, when we do this work, right, it's hard. You know, you mentioned something made me think of one of our men in the program. Oh boy, on Friday, he was resentful towards his wife. Oh my gosh. And I had to cast his ass. If you don't know, that's what we do in my program. I cast his ass, or he's been castrated. But What did he do? He reflected over the weekend. He went in all weekend long and led his wife in the joy that he wanted. He wasn't angry. It was not her. It was him. He took responsibility for himself. And he said that today on the call, he had such a great weekend with them, with the family, with his wife. Very intimate night, I think was something he said. I might be wrong on that part. But I think he did. And like at the end of the day, guys, that's because we peel back the resentment. That's not who you're not a fucking angry fucker.
Right.
Why do you think I don't care if people call me a rapist? I'm not a rapist. I used to rape my wife. I was a bad fucking man.
Right.
But we can peel all this back. Oh, it's freedom. It's freedom.
Yeah, absolutely freedom. Yeah. There's a lot of reasons too that, like, especially in the relationship, in this, what we're talking about with when we grow, sometimes we get resentful because the other person doesn't recognize it. But we have to realize that that journey that we've been on, it is personal. And so the other person's got to take their own personal journey. And Cash, you have a specific tool, more of a mindset than a tool, but it's called the patience formula. And you might want to explain that a little bit, that can help you have empathy in the context of your patience while you wait to circumvent resentment.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
So I say your patience is equal to the length of time, okay, multiplied by the pain, wounds, trauma,
Mhm.
less your tolerance equals your patience. Why? Because there's been a certain amount of trauma that you don't get to pick for your partner, right? The amount of people that say, well, I only did this, or I never did that. You don't get to decide what hurts your partner. You just absolutely don't. It's not your business. It's their pain and their wounds, and you've been a part. So if you're taking responsibility for yourself, then you get to look at the length of time that you hurt them and realize there's a tolerance factor as well. But I'm going to challenge you on that tolerance factor. Like you might be their turn for a while.
Yeah.
That's just it, right? And that will equal your patience. I know it's not truly mathematical, but when you see how we apply this during coaching calls, you start to realize that you're acting in a way that the wrong emotions are guiding you, and emotions are the root of all failure. That's it.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And if you have more patience, go back and watch those other lives if you want. But if you have more patience with yourself and impatience, like we've been talking about, in the right balance, and just love your partner and help them grow.
That's it.
Listen, like I said earlier, almost everybody wants the same thing, yet you're fighting your partner for the exact fucking thing that you want. The moment that you start getting what you want, you say it's not real. Catherine's new thing, James, I don't know if you've heard, but she's saying this all the time now, which is, listen, if you don't know our story, I'll be Catherine for a second, okay? If you don't know our story, I didn't allow Cass to grow. I didn't provide a platform for his growth. That was my mistake as a wife. That's how Catherine puts it now.
There you go.
And I described it like she was an anchor back then.
That's right. And the taking responsibility, we know we can assess our own motivations. We can assess it. And when you fight resentment, there's a lot to be said about releasing the need for validation, releasing the need for being seen as a core. I mean, it's okay to be validated. It's okay to get, have your cup overflowing because somebody engages with you and resonates with you.
Yes.
But the growth is yours. And if you need someone else to acknowledge that growth to feel secure, then the issue is self-trust. The issue is you're doing it for some other reason. So, I mean, there's so much to talk about there, but reframing the mindset of just, this person wronged me, this person did this to me, well, you know what do I have the power? How did I respond? How can I adjust? How can I grow? How can I communicate differently, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? These are the things that'll keep you out of the resentment lane.
Yeah. And Glenda says, James, we forget that our partner is not our enemy. We do because of that validation. We rely on our partner to fuel us with love. And what we realize when we start going back to, again, the question, who am I? If you can't answer that question, how can they love you? So isn't it kind of unfair to rely on your partner to love you?
Right.
We lose ourselves in marriage because we're not living in a vacuum. We get bogged down with responsibilities. We get bogged down with, whether that's career or whether that's kids or personal dreams and goals, or just becoming available for your partner because you desperately crave that attention, that affection, that presence. And that becomes your reason, your identity. And the problem with that is that's really heavy load for anybody to carry because they should know their own load. They have to carry their own load.
That's right.
And so it's kind of actually hypocritical, again, if you're resentful. if you're defending yourself, if you're talking yourself up, if you're blaming your partner. And chances are, by the way, if you want to remember what Glenda said here, she said, we forget that our partner is not our enemy. If you remember that your partner is not your enemy, don't you want them to know who they are too?
Yeah.
Don't you want to give them that gift? Well, if your partner's out, now's the time. You start with you. You know?
That's exactly right. Yeah, if we don't know, I'll just piggyback on some of the things that you said several times. I mean, for me, identity is the big thing. It's the crown of life, honestly, in the sense of being someone and having that focus and that power to relate to others. If you don't know who you are and you're showing up in different ways in different places all over your life, then nobody else is going to know who real you is. And then when we posture, fawn, pretend, be quiet, whatever we might do to keep people from bothering us or to keep from it builds that resentment. We don't know ourselves, so nobody else knows us. And if we don't love ourselves, we don't even have love to give to anyone else, much less have the reciprocity. So, one of the things that I was thinking about this, like early in my marriage, Robin would say, like, we'd be driving around or whatever. She said, I'm cold. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I just keep driving. And what she wanted was for me to reach over there and turn up the air conditioning so it would be so cold. And so after a couple of months of that, she would get frustrated. She'd say, how come you don't care that I'm cold? I said, baby, I do care that you're cold. Why don't you change I said, you didn't ask me to change the temperature. You just said you were cold, and I'm sorry that you're cold. I hate that for you. If you need me to change the temperature, say, can you turn the air up, please? And it's just little things like that. And it may be obvious to some of you, what kind of a dumbass doesn't know I didn't know that's what she wanted. I thought she was just saying I'm cold or I'm tired.
Well, and that's exactly why I charge what I charge for saving a marriage. We just don't know what we don't know. Okay. But at the same time that's such a great example because you also don't have the skills. See, in this case, your wife didn't know that she needed to communicate differently to you. Right.
That's right.
And the problem is from my message, a lot of times we get further away from communication or conversation, get into communication because it's an attack because those resentments are building up.
That's right. That's right.
We got a question here that says, how do you know to continue to work on the marriage or throw in the towel from La Chicana? All right. So how I believe that you look at this is, I know that you haven't spent enough time, spent enough money, and spent enough effort to actually try to save your marriage yet. I just know. The reason why I know that is because if my wife and I are still investing and we're $500,000 in, we've went 4 years through the depths of hell, 2 years of shit afterwards, and now the last 4 years have been incredible and only getting better and better and better, then I know what it takes to get there. My wife knows what it takes to get there. So La Chicana, I don't know you. And maybe you've invested twice as much money, time, and effort into it. But here's the thing. The easier way to tell is actually how resentful are you making that decision? If you're still resentful or have any contempt, then you probably haven't done near enough work. You see, when you throw in the towel, quote unquote, even that statement's negative. Right? It's almost like this. It's almost like this, La Chicana. It's like, I get it. If the old me ruined everything, I'm out. I can't do this anymore. I'm so proud of who I am, and I'm not going to be anchored anymore. I love you. I want the best for you. And you see, in there, you know that you're not actually done, La Chicana. You know in that moment that if they end up leaving, that doesn't mean it's over.
Right.
It doesn't. You're putting them in the rock bottom. And you say 25 years of work. I get it, girl. I get it. But what work? Have you ever heard the expression work hard versus work smart? We get resentful because we worked hard, but you need to work smart. My wife and I would tell you marriage is not work. It's all over our podcast, More Marriage. We talk about it all the time. Because if you ever had a job you love or you own a business, you'll understand this. It ain't fucking work. You love it. James and I work 100 hours a week.
We don't work.
Yeah, but we don't work.
It's not.
We don't work. Our families are not work. My marriage is not work.
It's not
Every moment of it is exciting.
Yeah.
And so, excuse me, when you understand that, you have to say, what have I been doing? How have I been doing? I'll give you another example, Chicana. We keep reinventing the way people help heal marriages. I mean it. We're innovating the field. That's one of our bases for trying to immigrate to the US is proving that we're innovating the field of quote unquote marriage therapy and counseling.
Yes.
Okay. If that's the case, and we're creating ways that are helping thousands of people and couples, then how can you say you've actually done everything?
Right.
Right. One thing I've learned, I can only change oneself. Is it possible you can have married to the wrong? I think it can be possible, but I'll challenge you. If you could grow apart, could you not grow together?
That's right.
The resentment helps feed your justification. That's where James and I went. And James actually specifically went when we were coaching our people in our program on our app, right? Resentment feeds you to justify in any way you can. See, what if I married to the wrong person? We had a guy this week.
Yeah.
What did he say? Well, her 13-year-old son is even, because not his child, 13-year-old son is even saying, why are you taking her shit? You should leave her. So I just pointed the question, since you're listening to a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah.
So you'll find anything you can when you're resentful to justify why you should maybe give up. What if you haven't tried everything? I know you haven't if you haven't been on the phone with my wife.
Yeah.
Right? Resentment causes you to fail. Right? The example I use all the time for business is, Facebook ads don't work. I'm not judging you. I said that when my gym when the ads couldn't go out, when I couldn't get any clients to come through the door. But when I stopped being resentful towards Facebook, I started to learn how to write ad copy. Right? Oh, my reels won't go viral. Fucking learn how to write copy. Learn how to talk to the camera. Practice. What's your tone like? Oh shit! All of a sudden you got 8 million views. It's the same thing with your spouse, guys.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. And if you get the lady that you were answering there, you haven't done everything if you feel despair and want to give up. What you think you're doing when you do that is you're gaining freedom, but you're freeing yourself from something or of something, and you're becoming attached, tethered, chained, and enslaved to something else. You're not free unless you can make a willful decision to do what's right based on who you are and what you want. And as long as you're running, as long as you're escaping the emotion, you are not free, and you have not done everything. And so it may give you the freedom you need for this moment. It may give you that emotional reprieve, but it's not going to set you free. It's not true. And you haven't done everything. And the next relationship you're in is going to be the same thing. And the next relationship is going to be the same thing. Why? Because you've never fixed the relationship that's most important in life, which is yours with yourself.
With you. That's it. Even just the way you keep coming at it, like, I did do too much with forgiveness. We talked about fawning earlier. I encourage you to watch this whole episode, go back to the beginning. But if you don't even know who you are, see, you're enabling it. When I talk about codependency, you create that for 25 years where you allow him to be forgiven again instead of understanding why we're getting there in the first place. Your first thing to do now, based off what you just said now, I know you haven't tried everything because you haven't even learned to stop enabling him, right? Like that's a problem. Right. And we do this with men all the time. We're like, you're enabling your partner every day to hurt you because you're codependent on that pain. You need that pain to survive. See, unfortunately, pain is more addictive than heroin. Yeah. The most addictive thing on the planet. You just want to hurt. People don't love the romance. Why do rom-coms work so well? Because the pain is there to get you. Then you get that little fucking hit at the end where we save the relationship.
Yeah.
That's what people do in their life all the time, hoping to go through the pain and get that hit of love.
Yeah.
That's why reels start with pain and not love. And almost always will go viral faster.
That's it.
It's you guys, we do it to ourselves. All right, James, any final thoughts?
Honestly, resentment is just something you just gonna have to understand. It does not imprison the other person. It just changed the one who holds it. So
it changed the one who holds it.
That's it.
Resentment is causing you to not get what you want.
Yeah.
And I don't care what area you're thinking of in your life for goals. It will tie into the fact that is not who you are. Nobody here wants to be angry. That's really what resentment is, right? Nobody here wants to feel that way. So if you do, then you're not creating the life that you want, which means this has nothing to do with your partner.
Yeah.
Like if your wife or husband rejects you, yes, that can suck. But it should not define you. Yes, Kara, it's just going to post. I don't delete my lives. Even my mentors tell me to do that, but I don't do that. You can go back and scroll. But it's easier to find on YouTube than it is on Facebook, okay? Because Facebook, you have to scroll, or YouTube, you can go to a list. Guys, resentment is not who you are. Insecurity is not who you are. Fear is not who you are. Anxiety is not who you are. You're not defined by your attachment style or your condition, like ADHD or me as a narcissist. You're not. You're not an alcoholic. You're not. Why do you think they put you in this box here, guys? They put you in this box. Let's use alcoholism for a second, right? You start coping. Oh, I'm an addict. I have to say I'm recovering. I'm never fucking healed. Fuck that. I destroyed my narcissist, bullshit asshole self. Fucking destroyed him because I was tired of being resentful, contemptuous towards the world. You can have this too.
Sure.
But you have to know who you are. And that's not the person in acting that you are. Okay?
That's it.
Guys, next week, we're going to talk about abuse.
Yes.
We're going to talk about abuse. And we're going to talk about it from two perspectives. We're going to talk about how, because we do this, if you don't know, every week at Wednesday at 3 o'clock Central Time. Okay? But we're going to talk about the abuse you allow on yourself and the abuse you do, whether you know or not. Okay? And this would be a great segue after what we talked about just there, finishing it, where you're not, I'm not the abuser anymore. You can judge me all you want for everything I did to Catherine, but I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
You could judge Catherine for putting up with it for all that, but she knows who she is. And you can either live and breathe the examples we give and what you talked about on the call earlier, James, where you find your own authentic version of that, or you don't. And then you'll never, if you're just borrowing my authenticity or James's lessons or Catherine's lessons and their authenticity and their truth is what you actually said. If you're just borrowing our truth, you can do that for a while, but you're just always going to be resentful again.
Yeah, it's just a costume until it actually, you got to get naked and real with who you are and unashamed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. If you need more in the meantime, our Morrow app, it's my last name. You can search in the Apple Store or go to the website go.morrowmarriage.com. And don't forget our podcast, guys. If you want real discussions with Catherine and me, it's Morrow Marriage, Apple, YouTube, Spotify, and go get your fucking life.
There you
Let's
go.
do it. See
Let's
you
go.
guys. Bye.